This is the stackable kelp farm, and don't worry, we're not going to start out by building this whole thing. I'm just going to show you how the small parts are built and how you can expand it. Let's get to it. It doesn't need many components and it starts out pretty easily. So any block, just any block, throw on a piston, any block that's not transparent, redstone dust, and then an observer. And that is the entire mechanized working system. So let's just build this out in a way that you would actually build it. You could theoretically build just a one column, but that's not useful. So let's show you what's nice about this. It's modular. So you can build it any length you want, say 16 in length, or 100 in length, or really until the chunk borders start to get a little wonky. You can make it as long as you want, which is nice. So let's just go ahead and build this up. I'm going to build it up. Let's make it 6 across. Seems like a good number to really get to build and understand how this works. So one of the interesting things while building this is I'm going to recommend you don't put in your redstone yet, because if you put in your redstone yet, it's going to make filling it up a pain. Trust me, it's just not worth your time. I've done it manually in survival many times, and it sucked every single one. So if we're skipping the redstone, let's go ahead and make this an additional tier. I'm actually going to make it like that one I made over there, which is 3 tall. You can make it just about as tall as you want, so long as you're okay with hitting, you know, the sky limit. But you can make it as tall as you want, or as deep as you want. This is actually pretty easy to put in the ground. In fact, I like it better when it is in the ground. It's got this nice little, you know, like collective algae farm kind of look to it, which in essence it almost is. Maybe don't use glass as a material if you don't have silk touch and you don't want to mess up, because that is there. That could be an issue. I'm mostly just building with glass for so you can see everything that's happening for transparency's sake. For transparency's sake, because it's glass. So back to building. That joke stands. That joke sits way too long. As you can see, this is the first side. We're going to actually duplicate it, because the interesting thing about this is I didn't do it here, mostly because I was running out of patience, but you can actually double them up on both sides. So I'm just going to skip ahead to when I've doubled it up on both sides. Oh, and you're going to want to 1, 2, 3 over, and that's where you're going to want to start. You can technically start a bit higher, but then you're wasting space that could be used for kelp. All right, now this is the basic mechanism here. What the heck? I thought I disabled you. Weird. Here is the basic mechanism here. Now what you're going to do is a little interesting. On here, this side, you're going to build up a wall, or if you put it underground, you're not going to have to build up a wall. One of the reasons I like building it underground, though it does make accessing the redstone harder if it's underground. You're going to build up a wall, make sure that this wall goes up 1 block above the observers, the top level of observers, and around, so you've got a little space on top. This is to, as you can imagine, keep the water in, because you don't want the water just spilling on everything. Specifically, you don't want the water flowing everywhere, because where the water flows is where your kelp's gonna go. I should almost make that a poster. Where the water flows, the kelp will go. It's like a motivational poster from a horrible, horrible company. On this side, you're actually going to do something a little different. You're actually going to mirror the outside here. Because what you want to do on this side of the, let's call it a tank, on this side of the tank, is you're actually going to want to build out an area on this side that just gives you an extra little source of water source blocks. These pistons, when they pump out, will destroy the source blocks, and without a parallel source block to reinvigorate them, they are going to have to wait until the seaweed itself, or the kelp, I guess, grows up into the piston area to help refresh it. In the center here, you're going to make a wall. So you've got down your center wall. Actually, it doesn't even have to have this top. So break it 1 down to where the actual observers are. Place a hopper, 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 hopper. Don't do that. Hopper, hopper. Which is part of the reason you want to build it doubled up like this. Not just because you save a little bit of vertical, a little bit of length, but also because you have to spend half as much on hoppers. You have this, right? As opposed to 12 on one side, you would need an additional 6 hoppers. So you're saving a little bit of your own energy here. And then right here, you can actually put either iron bars or glass panes. It's up to you. I'm going to use iron bars this time. It's not that expensive to do, but it helps the efficiency. It helps just a little bit to make sure that the stuff actually goes into the center point here, because sometimes the water will extend more than you expect. So something easy to mine is always a good one. So like leaves or let's say wool, right? Wool is pretty fast to remove with shears. Here is your wool. And you're going to want to inline with the observers. Notice the pistons aren't firing every time you place something. That's because we didn't put down the redstone. Now, throw that in. Okay, let's go to the other side. And only put water here. Don't fill out the rest of the water. Make sure it has this slope to it. So now that we've done this, what we're going to do is we're going to destroy it. And now we're going to do the thing that I hate about this farm. I know what you're thinking. Wait a second. I thought you said you love this farm. I do love this farm. I also hate this next step. So what comes next is you can do one of two things. You can either, with a water bucket, constantly going out and getting to your source or whatever, going and filling it up one by one, tier by tier, all the way up. Or you can just go ahead and put some kelp in. You're on the sides to make sure that this has a wall of source blocks to work with. Take some kelp blocks and just plant them. But the problem is kelp blocks will turn water that's flowing into source blocks. Number one thing though, if it hits this, it will also turn that into a source block. So what you're going to want to do is break that kelp as soon as it starts. Just get it up to the height of the hopper and then break it again. You're going to do this for every single area. Well, okay, sort of. Here's the part where I lied to you. Is really you only need to do it up on this side. And this is why, if you didn't want to do this, you could just fill it up manually. But since the redstone's off, we can actually build up with this, and it's not going to care. And we're about to be done. One more. There you go. And now, there is a row of source blocks here. Well, there's a whole wall of source blocks here, and a wall of source blocks here, which means all of that just filled in with source blocks. All of this down here is a source block, which is good. Because what you're going to want is you're really going to want this thing to have as many source blocks as possible, because items, when broken, will only float up inside source blocks. That's why it's so important. If it didn't have source blocks, it used to in the old game, but in the new game, it will like languish wherever there's not a source block. And now, you can go ahead and throw in some redstone dust. What this redstone dust will do, as you probably figured out, you're smart, intelligent folks, but maybe you just weren't paying too much attention, or maybe you're on your phone, maybe you're catching my Twitch streams in the sideline. I don't know why you would do that. Why would you watch a tutorial and a Twitch? Well, you do you. Whenever a kelp block grows up one, and then it grows up, well, let's just say a few of these grew, and then say kelp finally grows up to a third, it hits the observer and it pops. When it does that, as you may have seen, it's a little fast. But in case it wasn't clear, every time the kelp goes up, the observer sees the kelp grow, and then it triggers the redstone behind it, which fires all of those pistons, and those pistons push the kelp off into the little region right here. And they hit that hopper line, they go through here, and then you can, put down a chest or a water stream dispenser, or really anything else just to transport it or to store it, and it will do that. You got a working kelp farm, which you can build up to this in the same way that I built up to that. So you built up several rows, right? Each row on top of each other, and then you could just do that each row on top of each other. And as you see, it doesn't have to be just 1 or 2 or 4. It can be 16 across, or, it can be 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. Oh, come on. You're making us look bad in front of the audience. I know. What are you doing here? See, I thought I turned mob spawning off, so this is why I'm confused by this skeleton being here. Hi, take it. Hey, look at the camera. Hi, I've been Renegade Mercury. I hope you enjoyed the kelp farm. Me and my friend Skeleton are gonna keep... Skeleton? Skelly? Bone Boy? Asshole? Who knows? But don't walk away from me. We're doing an outro. Anyway, I've been Renegade Mercury. I hope you enjoyed this let's not say fast. It's definitely not the fastest thing imaginable, but then again, a seaweed farm really never is. But I hope you enjoyed this pretty efficient and pretty effective kelp farm. And as always, if you like the video, please like it. It helps us in the battle against the algorithm. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more. And also, most importantly, if you'd really like to come and hang out later, I have a Twitch channel. It's down in the description. See you guys later. This is Renegade, signing off. You know, I'm starting to think that I say my name too many times in that outro, but I should write a script. I should have a script for that. I should stop trying to ad-lib it.